Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss the feature news for 16th of March 2022. Today's feature news is on corporate governance in India, and we begin this article by welcoming all of you here. Hi Amlan, Netra, Bhabani, Ashish, Hima, Kim, Vivek, Kriti, Netra, all of you welcome. And we have Tyasha, Pooja, welcome to all of you. All right, so before we begin, let me share something with you. बस कर, अब रुलाओगे क्या? Yeah. Thank you for so much of such good appreciation of the work that we have been doing here. I really appreciate and commend you for this, because it is never complete without your participation. Because everywhere, if you see, if I put X labor, each of you puts that 0.01 X again at your end, right? So that is what is the kind of labor that you put alongside with me, which is very much appreciable. And this also results in growth, personal growth, and sharing results in a community level growth. Remember, I had shared that Vikram Sarabhai, J. Homi Bhabha, and APJ Abdul Kalam, they all worked together. And they could create something together. They all were experts in their own fields. Homi Bhabha for atomic sciences, Vikram Sarabhai for space sciences, APJ defense and space. But yet they could develop some things together, right? So this is what is the power of doing things together, right? Not only that, I also help you. I also commend you in your recognition of the fact that this is an opportunity for you people, right? So this is great that you people have caught an opportunity. Let's do it together. Let's stick together to each other and let's make it successful. And this is not only applicable for people who are viewing offline. There's some of you who are viewing offline. This is to you as well. There's a call out to you. Start interacting. Start chatting in the comment section. There are questions. Please post. And only I'm appreciative of the people who are asking questions, because that not only leads to some awareness building, this also leads to critical awareness development, because through questions the faculties of mind get engaged at a deeper level, right? So understanding is far better. So this is another thing that I'd like to appreciate. Kim, thank you for acknowledgement. All of you, the way you are sharing appreciation, it will very much seem as if I have paid you all through WhatsApp, or Paytm, or I have paid you something through OLX, right? So thank you for these appreciations. Other people, please put down your remarks on inputs. जितनी गाली देनी है इसमें दे दो, जितना सुनाना है इसमें सुना दो, so that we keep on going ahead smoothly later. All right, Kriti, Ashish, Vivek, all of you, Hima, Babani, I appreciate your acknowledgements, all of you. Tyasha, Netra, all of you, thank you very much. All right, and reading out this comment, मंजिल उन्हीं को मिलती है जिनके सपनों में जान होती है, मंजिल उन्हीं को मिलती है जिनके सपनों में जान होती है, पंख से कुछ नहीं होता, हौसलों से उड़ान होती है. Thank you, Vivek. All right. Sir, this notes is too lengthier and I am not able to revise, sir. How will I revise it? Yes, for that you will have to prepare shorter notes, Pooja. And how do you prepare shorter notes? Through experience. It will not happen all of a sudden. There will be a tendency to write a lot of facts in the beginning, but slowly and steadily when you start revising it, that's the reason I asked you to revise the content that you have yourself written. When you revise it, you realize that, oh, I have included the whole sentence. The sentence wasn't required, just that important word was required. So slowly and steadily, Pooja, what will happen is that you will reduce the tendency of writing longer sentences. You will only include what is the most relevant thing there, only the relevant thing. It will happen through writing what you are doing, revising it, and then when you memorize, you'll realize you just need some phrases, some words. Slowly and steadily, your notes themselves will become short. So revision will become easier, and further notes creation will also become easier. But this is a process in which one has to stick for maybe 15 days, 20 days, revise it, and then you will slowly realize probably I could have done with shorter notes. That's the way. Paid comments, not through money but knowledge. Oh yes, exchange of knowledge. Thank you. Good one. Number noted. All right. See, we are looking for better things for this initiative. We are looking for creating a better setup in which we provide better services give better services to you, create better ecosystem, better channels for interaction, clearing questions, doubt. Right now it's only YouTube. So let's see what is possible, and that is the reason we are also looking forward to feedbacks from you people. Feedbacks are welcome anytime, every time. It is not just me, but other people also will be able to assist you from our organization, right? So thank you. Okay, so now let's begin this discussion today. And before this discussion, yes, a quick understanding on Tusk and Ivory. So this was the question that I had myself in my mind for quite a few months earlier, but then I cleared it. Hima, you are absolutely correct. This is Ivory for the rhinos. And so there is a prime difference between Ivory and Tusk. Tusk is the protruding teeth-like element. One good example is the elephant itself, right? Hathi ke daat dikhane ke alag, khane ke alag, right? So these are the teeth-like structures, and these are called as tusks. Tusk not only of elephant, walrus also has got tusks, right? But can we say that rhinos have tusks? No, these are not tusks. These are not protruding from around their mouth. These are ivory. So ivory is the superstructure under which tusk is one kind of ivory, right? Ivory is the whole structure, right? The bone-like structure, white, yellow shape. This is ivory. I'm sorry. This is ivory, and under this is the tusks. So tusks are a subset of ivory. That is the update that I wanted to share with you. A quick small difference. Small things, but then at least they let us sleep peacefully at night. Getting back to corporate governance in India, we are going to discuss what have been the scams in the past, some of these scams, and what have been the reason for it. What is the kind of recommendation that have been given by various committees, Birla Committee, and then we've got several more committees, right, formed in the 2017, 2004. We'll understand them. We'll understand the structure of the corporates in India, and what are the ways, what are the challenges that these corporates encounter, what are the structures of corporate governance, all of it. So let's begin this, and questions are mostly welcome all the time. All right, so let's begin this. Now lately there was this seemed to be a scam which was operating at National Stock Exchange, NSE. National Stock Exchange, a very big platform where trading happens, where exchange of information, financial information and data happens, right? And the person who was leading the organization, the MD of NSE, Mrs. Chitra Ramakrishnan, she's been investigated along with another gentleman, A. Subramaniam, right? So this gentleman was one of the persons possibly responsible and now being interrogated by CBI, by SEBI. One of the allegations is that Chitra Ramakrishna used to, and who was heading the NSE from 2013 onwards, she would all the time take support for some Baba in the Himalayas, some allegedly some Baba, and even pass them emails, text messages, information and details about NSE in confidence to an outsider in confidence. This is never a part of corporate governance. Passing of financial information, and there would also be inputs provided by the Baba, unknown Baba, to her, right? There would be remarks on personal clothing. There would be remarks on who should be made a member of the board, who should be the, a new position was given called as GOO, Group Operating Officer. And a specific individual out of nowhere was recommended for this position because the Baba asked them to be appointed. This person was A. Subramaniam. His salary rose from a few lakhs to a few crores within a matter of time, and this was an appointment made without any due scrutiny, right? Without any capability, and new structure was created. And now this investigation started. This was not only between these specific individuals, this was also open between people of NSE. People knew it, but they did not speak up that time. And now when investigation is coming up, then CBI, SEBI, all of them are investigating and finding that there have been major lapses in corporate governance. That is the word, lapses in corporate governance, right? This is not the first time this has happened. There have been various times when we have seen lapses in corporate governance. I would like to give you some popular examples of this, right? Mere sharing of the images, right, would make you feel that yes, I am aware of some of it. ICICI Bank. National Stock Exchange, Yes Bank, ILFS, all of them have gone through lapses in corporate governance. Giving examples, right? NSE example, you just understood how the managing director came under the influence of some unknown person, and now also appointed officers disclosed valuable information of confidence which was never to be done. ICICI Bank CEO Chanda Kochar, right, indulged in possibly nepotism, right, giving loans to her husband through transactions. There were transactions done with an organization, Videocon, which is lost, which is a dead organization. Along with that, we see an organization called as Yes Bank. The CEO again, MD of Yes Bank, Rana Kapoor, indulged in many illicit transactions. Similarly, the balance sheet and the trade books of ILFS, right? They extended loan. This organization has been formed as a consortium of many banks and PSUs. Funds were being put into this organization, right? Infrastructure Leasing and Financial Services Limited. This organization would provide finances for infrastructure creation around the country, and they gave finances to those organizations which were not doing well. The repayment capacity was not there. It was found in the audit reports. Even then, they had lent money. This was found out later, and some of the subsidiaries of ILFS, they were not operating, in the best capacity, and it was not revealed who this loan was given to, and a lot of details were missing. So this is not a part of corporate governance. Corporate, what we understand with the word corporate, is a huge company, right? Not a small company, but generally in common parlance, a big company. And governance of this company involves certain, certain basic parameters. For example, it should be in the interest of all the stakeholders. All the stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? Shareholders are stakeholders. Owners, promoters are stakeholders. Government is a stakeholder, right? The employees are stakeholders. All the policy decisions must be taken in the interest of stakeholders. There must be transparency in the policy. There must be accountability. There must be responsiveness, right? There must be a goal towards which the organization should work. There must be some responsibility designated. For example, corporate social responsibility. All of them become the structure under which corporates must act. However, these have not been seen happening in these organizations. This brings to light the lapses in corporate governance in India. Right? Are the laws not being framed properly? Is there not an accountability of this? What about the declarances, right? What about the declaration from these organizations? Their quarterly reports or the annual reports, are they being presented? What about the promoters of the organizations? Are they only the board members of the board, or is it being diversified, right? So we will understand each of these issues and also understand what are the shortcomings and what are the ways in which it can be overcome. All right. So, before anything, see, ideally, when you look at an organization, there are two kinds of boards in an organization. There are two structures. There are two ways in which boards can be divided. One way is one in which there is a one-tier board, and there's another one which is called as two-tier board, right? So what happens in one-tier board is that the people who are the top level executives, they form a part of the board. In this organization, there will be one executive director 1, executive director 2, so one executive director for human resources, another director for say operations, another director for marketing, many directors, and all of them will be interacting with each other along with some promoters who are also part of the directorship, the top level management. And there will be one person who will be heading all of them. That person will be called as CEO and MD, managing director and MD. One designation only in this organization. This is one tier structure. The other structure is a two-tier board. A two-tier board will have two boards. One is a supervisory board and the other one is board of management, right? So let me tell you what this is. Board of management is the one where the people who are executives, they will be a participant in the board. Who are those? They will be a managing director heading this board. There will be different members, executive director 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, any of them. And this MD is the one who reports to supervisory board. Supervisory board will include various members. For example, it will have some independent directors, it will have some promoters, it will have women directors, it will have various structures. And the person who is leading this organization will be called as the so the person who is heading this organization will be called as Chief Operating Officer, CEO, and Managing Director, right? But the person who is heading the supervisory board, they will be given a designation, different designation, right? Earlier in one-tier structure, we saw only one person who was heading this organization also, executives, and heading this one as well. So transparency was not there. There were no two individuals. Right now we are speaking of two different boards, one board being made accountable at supervisory board, right? So this is a far more transparent structure. This is what has been recommended by SEBI for all listed companies, but then not a lot of companies have been able to do this. So SEBI also had to roll back its instruction that you must have two different executive level or higher level positions, one heading supervisory board and one heading the board of management, MD, right? So this is one important structure that must have been looked at, but it was never looked at, right? So here this is the chairperson of supervisory board will be called as the chairperson of supervisory board, chairperson. But CEO MD is a different rank, and CEO MD, it is better that if these ranks are separated, right? You understand very well, otherwise there will be lesser transparency, lesser accountability. Here CEO is getting held accountable at the supervisory board, not in case of one-tier structure, which was now two-tier structure was recommended, but it has now been made only recommendatory, right? Not an essential feature of these stock exchanges, right? So this is one part of it which you see as a shortcoming. Now, basic about corporate governance is that any set of rules, laws, procedures, right, any bylaws which have been created to be able to govern a bigger organization, that will be a part of corporate governance. Interest of stakeholders, facilitating prudent management so that the institute becomes profitable, gives returns, expands, having a vision. These are the part of corporate governance, right? And it must have, the pillars of corporate governance are transparency, accountability towards shareholders, fairness in dealings. These are some important structures under which every organization must work. This is what is corporate governance. These are the pillars of corporate governance. The transparency assured through the two-tier structure rather than one-tier structure. This is an important point of contention and an important recommendation as well. Transparency of operations. Transparency of operations is also ensured through the quarterly reports. Every organization has to show its quarterly balance sheet, right? What are its profit loss statements? What are the asset and liabilities? It has to declare. Any organization which is a part of the listed companies in National Stock Exchange or Bombay Stock Exchange, they have to declare all this every quarter, right? Accountability is assured through annual meetings, right? Through times where election happens, election to the members of boards happen. Now, earlier times, the election to board of the board members would happen through nominations. Now, the rules have said that the stakeholders will choose who the member is, who the member of board is. You cannot have only promoters. We will have to have independent directors also, people from outside. We must have women director also as the members of the board. This has been instructed very clearly by SEBI for all those organizations listed in the stock exchange. See, the irony is this, that the organization SEBI, under which these organizations, right, National Stock Exchange, Bombay Stock Exchange, and various other organizations they were, SEBI has instructed companies within NSE to operate like this, within BSE to operate through certain corporate governance parameters. They may or may not be working like that, but NSE itself is getting biased. Imagine this. So issues at multiple levels of hierarchy. This is going to cause an issue in credibility of the National Stock Exchange. When you look at the organization ILFS, a very decent proportion of the ownership of this did lie with Japanese institutions as well. Indian banks, PSU banks, right? It did lie with a couple of more very, very valuable organizations which are part of institutional investing in India. So credibility is questioned when there are issues in corporate governance. This is the point I'm making. Accountability has to be ensured through annual meetings, through declarations, right? Similarly, fairness is in dealings. Every dealing must be put out in the open, right? None of the dealings must happen in opaque levels, right? It must be transparent and it must be let out to everybody, right? So these are the examples through which you can say what are the issues and what has been happening, what must be done. Similarly, when we talk of the social responsibility of the organization, start speaking of corporate social responsibility. I remember there was a question of CSR, I think Ashish had asked, can you please pose that question again? See, in CSR fundings, the idea is that the government, that the corporate will be spending 2% of the profits, not 2% of revenue. If it's a loss-making company, you need not spend. But if you are in profits, 2% of the profits of the average of the last 3 years, that must be spent for some corporate initiative, right? Corporate initiative for social betterment, right? There must be some business ethics with which the company must work. So these are some pillars of corporate governance, valuable pillars. And when you see how accountability is ensured between organizations, is something like this. See, annual meeting with the shareholders, right? With the shareholders, board of management. This is where the MD is the one who is leading the organization. And then we have a chairperson leading the supervisory board. The board of management, they are appointed by the supervisory board. They also hold themselves accountable at the supervisory board. Similarly, election of members in supervisory board happens through annual shareholders meeting. They decide who have to be selected. These people later decide who will be appointing or who will be heading what organization. So you see, and then board of management shares the annual profile, annual working profile, revenue statements, profit loss to both the boards, right? Shareholders meeting or supervisory board. And this is how we see a company going ahead or company not going so ahead, right? Now, all of this was not done well in all these 4 cases. These are the 4 least cases. Satyam scandal was also similar, right? All these 4 cases, the corporate governance was not followed. This is post-liberalization, where the activities of government, they were delegated to corporates. They would not follow the corporate norms, right? So what are the issues? See, let's discuss the issues then. The issues. Yeah, so examples of Yes Bank, Rana Kapoor, ICICI, Chanda Kochar, ILFS, auditors, right? National Stock Exchange, misuse of co-location. Yes, another problem was misuse of co-location. See, I think that you understand what I'm speaking of. When National Stock Exchange is located at a particular institution place, the co-location facilities were provided to some brokers, some institutional brokers. For example, only for an example, if we have Sher Khan, or if we have Zerodha broker, right? Zerodha broker. If NSE has formally given them a setup here to sit in the same institution where NSE is located, NSE servers are located, these servers are located. So the latency and lag will be less for these organizations, Sher Khan and Zerodha broker. So co-location facility accidentally or purposefully gave some advantage to these organizations. There have been cases against NSE providing co-location services to these organizations, because this is how they would be able to clear their trading accounts before other companies, giving unfair advantage to these organizations. So that is why this again is in question. So you see, due diligence was not conducted before giving these kind of advantages. Although co-location services gave some revenue to NSE. Why? Because these people who were sitting here as organizers, or as their own company, the personals, they were also paying something to NSE. So NSE was in profit for this. However, it led to probably discriminatory treatment against many other companies, many other traders, right? Okay, let me show you some of the issues that corporate governance goes through right here. So first is insider model. See, many of the members of a corporate organization, they're insiders only. If suppose Tata, now Tata doesn't have a here, right? But Bajaj has, but Reliance has, Ambani has. So the board members of the executive directors, right, or the board members in the supervisory board, many people would be Ambani's only. Let's take the example, Nita Ambani, Akash Ambani, name the other Ambanis, right? not Tina and the younger brother, not they, but the family of Mukesh, they would be board members of supervisory board, and the head of executive director or CEO of the company would be one of the Ambani's sons, and they would be hiring various persons under them or operating. But then these people would be at the very strategic positions. This is what is called as the insider model. The world outside would not know what is happening inside. And this is not transparent. This is not clear. Even if board meeting report comes up, what if the executive director, they fudge with data and the wrong data is presented to everybody. So this is what has caused problems in many organizations, right? Many organizations which have had alleged corruption inside them, it is because of the insider model. I'm not criticizing any family business here. Family businesses, they originate like this, and this is how companies list. This is absolutely fine. But then we must have independent directors. This is what is also a recommendation of Uday Kotak committee. This is also an important recommendation from many other committees, that there must be at least 6. There must be at least six board members in the supervisory board, and we must have at least one woman member board in the supervisory board. Along with that, if there are 6 of them, 50% should be the independent directors. Independent, they should not be a part of the company, related to company, not at all. They should not be. You can have some promoter here. We can have some promoter also. A promoter is somehow related to the owner, or could be the owner of the company, right? They could be a part of the supervisory board, but we need to have independent directors. But see, another question, independent director has got obligations to be a part of the meeting, to be responsible for some things, to ask questions to the executive director. But then, are they paid accordingly? No. What is the procedure of appointment of the independent director? It cannot be nominations every time, otherwise this is a undue advantage to some specific people. So there should be ways in which appointment must happen. The salaries also must be fixed. These are actual issues, not creating them. So non-adherence to regulations by these companies, right? I have just given you some examples. They would not adhere to many other regulations, right? I gave you the simple example. The 2-tier structure was never operated upon. It was a 1-tier structure in many organizations, right? See, similarly, lack of due compensation, the remuneration to independent directors, non-coverage of unlisted companies. Many of these, reformation that I'm speaking of right now, they are operational only for those companies which are listed, which are in the stock market, because it's shareholding, because public also owns a part of that company. That is why. What about those companies which are not listed? For example, Parle is not listed. Parle G, it's not listed. HUL is listed. On the other hand, we have companies like Patanjali, not listed. We don't know about the governance of unlisted companies, how they are sharing, or what is the revenue that is generating, or what is the level of profit that they are having. So non-coverage of unlisted companies is a major challenge. They still have to declare taxes to IT departments. They have to be compliances, but then many of the compliances go unregulated. This is where what we need is a very good model of company secretaries and chartered accountants, right? Auditors, right? When a simple example of this is, when auditor presents the audit report of the organization, how it is performing, whether its balance sheet is good enough or not, profit and loss accounts are in the proper proportion or not, that's the place where they should also go the extra mile to be able to tell if one should invest in a company like that or not, or what is the trajectory of that company. These are the additional the inputs that the auditor could provide. These are recommendations, but are they being followed? No. So we need a better auditor model also for these organizations, right? Repeated audits of these organizations, corporate social responsibility, right? This is another component of it which all these organizations are a part of. Yet what is the level of participation, what is the efficiency of the the funds that are created and how they are being utilized? For example, many of these funds which are getting created, they are being passed to PM cares fund, right? Doing nothing about it, just filling the the exchequers or related funds. So rather than doing that, why don't we participate, right? We can participate through NGOs, through social entrepreneurship that is required, corporate governance, founders control and succession plan, right? This is what is questioned everywhere, right? I'd like to show you, I had this in my email. Yes. Let me show you the leadership of Tata. So Ratan Tata, no more the CEO of the company. Let me show you. It says, was the executive chairman. See, he was responsible to the board of supervisory board, right? He was responsible, but now it is N. Chandrasekharan. N. Chandrasekharan, who is responsible and who is the present chairman of the board of Tata Sons. See, he is the chairman of the board of Tata Sons, chairman of the board. He is not the executive. Oh yes, he is also the executive director, no? Or they are more directors. See, there are more directors here. He is also the executive director. He is also the chairman. So that indicates that possibly Tata company has got only one board, where N. Chandrasekharan is not only the executive director. This gentleman is also the chairman of the board. Very much indicative. So then this is not, the two-tier structure that we are speaking of. Similarly, when we look at HUL, I'm merely speaking of a possibility, just sharing an example with you. The board of directors includes chairman and managing director, who is Sanjeev Mehta, and then we have various executive directors. See, possibly that this has two levels of hierarchy, because we have one chairman and managing director here, or no, possibly again here, same. Chairperson of the supervisory committee could be the managing director. That's what is written, chairman and managing director. This is what has been recommended by SEBI. If it is possible, create a differential structure, which many companies did not do. So we had to recall its order that it is mandatory, only recommendatory later. So these are the kind of issues that comes with the founders control and succession planning. See, they did not plan in a way that both the structures must be different. So many committees, Ketan Parikh scam, right? Harshad Mehta, right? Many other scams happened that I shared with you. This has led down international institution investment, retail investment in India. This has let it down. So this is what you are saying, no? Himalayan Yogi, absolutely. Hi Gopal, welcome. Harshad Mehta scam. Bharat Pay issue is another one, right? His wife involved in corporate governance scams, right? So Hima says Naresh Chandra Committee on Corporate Audit. All right, audits. This is where we have had quite a few committees. Kumar Mangalam Birla Committee is one, constituted in 90s. This is one of the committees. And the other committee which you can always put is Uday Kotak Committee, the latest one formed in this regard, right? Kotak Committee and the Mangalam Birla Committee, all of them spoke of certain important things that must change in corporate governance. So one of the things that they spoke of is separation for the role. I have been shouting out on the same. All of them has mentioned separate roles for listed companies. Both of these people, chairperson and the CEO, chief executive officer and managing director, they must have different roles and they must be clearly stated so that there is no duplication, so that there is no overlapping, so that one of them is held accountable for their work in the organization, right? Chairperson not to become the executive director, as simple. Independent directors must be there in the organization and they should not be the promoters. Have only few promoters, but then you cannot have only promoters as the independent directors in the organizations, right? Then they have to mandatorily disclose their balance sheet, right? Their account statements. But then this is only for listed companies, my dear friends. This is again not for all the organizations. Similarly, board needs to have diversity. They must have minimum number of people if they are listed companies and if they are in the top 2000 companies according to market capitalization, they must have more diversity in the membership. So at least 6 to 8, that was the level of membership, and 50% of these people must be a part of the independent directorship. Who said this? Kotak Committee. Who said this? Kumar Mangalam Birla Committee. Both of them said this, right? There must be one woman, mandatory one woman director, right? This was a part of recommendation, also instituted now, right? There should be a formal and institutional induction process of the independent directors. It cannot be done through nepotism. It cannot be done through, hush hush, institutions, institutional, reposing of a director, right? There was another recommendation, that is that the interaction between the supervisory board and the executive board, that must keep happening at a frequent level, so that inputs are received, so that inputs lead to betterment of the organization, right? Along with that, when you mention the example of the corporate audit committee, then the recommendations were such that the auditing firms also must be rated. Auditing firms, one simple example of audit firms could be all these consultancies, no? So we have McKinsey, right? We've got global organizations auditing, Deloitte. These audit also. These are financial firms. These are audit firms. They do a lot of consultancy work. These people audit. So their rating also must be carried out, so that people understand which are the better auditing firms, right? There should be value addition in the auditing reports, going beyond the mandate of saying it is loss, it is a profit. No, you must mention if this company's trajectory is in the right path, or is it going in the downward trajectory. So not only that, there should be a body to talk about corporate shocks. See, what happens is that when the scam is declared all of a sudden, then everything collapses. The membership, the stocks of the company, the employees, everything is in a state of confusion. So there should be a way in which corporate shock should be declared, right? There should be some mandatory way in which it should be prepared for the organization, right? There should be talent which should be hired at directorial levels, and it should not be through favoritism or nepotism. Tenure of management, many people in the management, they remain in the management throughout their lifetime. This should not happen. So these are some important recommendations or committees, and when you see, this is the primary, in a way, this is the primary way in which any corporate should act. For example, they should set key performing indicators for all the leadership roles, directorial roles, right? There should be dashboard where everything should be visible, right? This was the spending, this was the output, right? This has resulted in so much of profit or loss, even in case of our output dashboard. So transparency is there for everybody. There should be expert people, talented and expert people hired at directorial levels, and not novice and people who are promoters, right? There should be relevance to context for the operation of the business of the organization. Accountability, separate roles of leadership, ethical, business integrity. These should be the parameters, components of corporate governance and leadership, right? These are some updates from here. Moving back. So when you look at corporate governance, there have been cases around the whole country, right? Abysmal state of corporate governance in India. This could be a question in the coming examination, because now we see increased number of scams in the country. NSE Scam has been the latest one, still being investigated. The structure has been shared with you once again here, right? Audit committee, shareholders audit, shareholder, board of directors, and then we have management resource committees and management, right? So this is how the image that I had showed you, that was lucid to understand for you, right? So NSE, the scam has been explained here in short, right? And then corporate governance means mechanisms, processes, relations by which corporations are controlled and directed. As simple, just the way government operates, corporates also operate, and there have to be some principles on which they operate: accountability, responsibility, transparency, ethics. This could be some of the foundational stones, right? The issues that I explained: non-adherence to regulations, challenges of insider business, right? Insider model, less transparency amongst people, lack of compensation for the talented persons listed as becoming a part as independent directors, non-coverage of unlisted corporates, right? Unlisted corporate. This is a major challenge. Only around 2,000 companies are listed in NSE. Only around 8,000 companies are listed in BSE. What happens to rest of the other firms? India, including all the MSMEs, India has got crores of firms. I think 6 crore plus firms in the country. 6 crore. I'm including all the MSMEs also. But then there would be at least a million companies which are big companies, right? What about them? We are only including 1,000 companies in covering of the corporate norms. Multiplicity of regulations, this is another cause of problem. SEBI has something else to say, NSE has something else to say, and then we have banking organizations something else to say, right? Reserve Bank something else, insurance, IRDA to say something else, right? So if this is the way in which these organizations operate, the corporations also will become confused. What is the regulation here, right? CSR fundings, they have to be nominalized and rationalized, right? Succession planning, these are the current issues, right? Regulations, we have got many regulations, SEBI, Companies Act, ICAI, right? Company Secretaries of India, so many organizations which are working. See, for any board, there has to be a secretary, a company secretary. That secretary will maintain the minutes of the meeting. That person will convene the meetings. That person will adjourn the meetings. That person will be responsible for, designations of or designating or appointing other people at places. Appointment is just through an official order. It is done through democratic process, but they are the ones who issue that letter. So company secretaries is another designation, and then for chartered accountants or auditors, there's another important responsibility. So these are some of the important responsibilities designated, but then companies don't work like this. Kumar Mangalam Birla Committee says at least 50% of non-executive members and at least half of the board should be independent directors, right? Audit committee should consist of minimum 3 members, all non-executive. They should meet at least thrice a year. ऐसा नहीं कि एक ही बार audit कर दिया ठीक है, all done, rafa dafa. No, they should keep meeting regularly. These have not happened. That is the reason that these recommendations were given. This was formed in, I think, 1997, right? And then Narayan Murthy, all these big people. Narayan Murthy, I hope you know who you are talking of, right? Infosys. So training of board members, compensation for non-executive directors, right? Their performance, how they are performing. And similarly, Uday Kotak committee, it spoke of minimum 6 to 8 directors and 50% of the seats given to independent directors with at least one woman mandatory in the directorship, right? Audit committee to look into utilization of loans, right? Number of audit committee meetings increased to 5. These are the recommendations, right? Out of around 80 recommendations, 40 were accepted by the government. So what I am mentioning is that government passes on these, recommendations, but are they followed? This is a major challenge for government to look at. This is where independent auditors must operate. This is where people must be more aware, right? So, this is how the, problems come to light. Practices for businesses, crisis management and sustainability, right? So when I mentioned that the crisis management must become more effective, right? Declaration of any corporate fraud must become more, it must become more professional. This is what is required, right? So the concept of corporate governance hinges on total transparency, integrity, and responsibility of the administration and board of directors. See, many of the corruption scandals that we saw, they are because the boards are not operating properly. It is not about the mid-level managers or the people who are working at the grassroots. The top leadership must clear of the kind of issues of opacity, of lesser accountability, of nepotism, and we will start seeing that it will percolate down and increase the level of ethical governance in any organization. So see, look at this conclusion. This is a very beautiful statement. The concept of corporate governance hinges on total transparency, integrity, responsibility of administration and board of directors. Finance, taxation, banking, legal structure, all we read is corporate governance. Everywhere, every corporate needs corporate governance, right? So it should ensure that the board of directors is effectively supervised and answerable to the company and its shareholders. So what you have to remember in this feature are some important recommendations. 5 or 6 important issues are here, right here, pointed here. Some examples that you have seen that I mentioned, some examples of this with names, if you have not names of persons, names of the institutions, and the corporate governance structure that I had shown you, some ideal ways in which it can be made. So this is the structure that I am speaking of, accountability structure, right? 2 different institutions, one supervisory board, one the board of management. These become very important. Along with that, some recommendations, and that is how it, you will be able to solve a question on corporate governance, right? So this is the update here. What did we study today is corporate governance. We understood what happened at NSE, National Stock Exchange, and through this this particular scam gave us the insight into getting into corporate governance. We understood what are the components or structures under which corporate governance works, right? So why transparency, accountability, and justice, doing the right thing. That means fairness or justice, and then ethics. These are some of the important substructures on which corporate governance works. We also understood what are the issues in corporate governance structures, and most foundational issue was the difference in segregation of powers, right? So managing director and the chairperson must have different powers. We also understood what are the various other issues. So all are issues discussed here. We also understood the recommendations by various committees. Remember 3-4 of these recommendations that I have placed, not here but in the other slide as well. And then we also understood the conclusion. Conclusion was one of the most beautiful statements to make here. It is about the administration, the leadership of the organizations. A question here: discuss the various issues related to corporate governance in India. When you talk about the issues of corporate governance, you will not only speak and analyzing what are the bad things in corporate governance, you should also look for a visionary approach. Towards the end, you should talk about the vision or the recommendations given by some of the leadership, some of the committees, and this is how you will be able to conclude the article, right? So not only criticism, but along with that, some recommendation towards the end, right? If there are questions, please post there. And also please remember tomorrow's session, it will start at the right time. And I will ensure that somebody posts the questions to you every 5 minutes. Today I tried that thing. I posted the questions fast and then you were able to process it faster. So that was a very good step. I want that the people who are viewing offline should also participate in this particular feedback. Please start interacting so that we are able to serve you better through question answers, through any doubts, any inputs. Everything is welcome here. So Kriti talks about Harshad Mehta scam. Yes, one scam that happened in 90s, Bharat Pay. All right. So questions, please post. If you like this initiative enough, share some love through likes, comments, and shares. All right. So yes, because I will not be able to speak to you directly tomorrow. Happy Holi to all of you. Have a safe and happy Holi. Yes, Hima, Babani, Amlan, Ashish, all of you. More than that, be intoxicated in the flavors of the various colors, food, fervor, festival. But having said that, examination is very important. Do remember that examination is approaching. Dedicate some time to it, right? And please prepare short notes so that you are able to work on it, right? Revision. Vivek says, sir, if you record lectures tomorrow, we can be online that time. It will happen at the same time. 6 p.m. tomorrow evening. All right. Netra, Tiasha, Hima, Kriti, all of you. All right. So I will see you guys very soon. Amlan, Vivek, all of you. But then tomorrow, please ensure that you be participant here. And I will be looking at the chat as and when I am available, as soon as that. And after that, I'll respond to you and your questions. All right. So thank you for participation and prepare notes immediately if possible. No, Amlan, there is a class tomorrow. There is a current affairs class tomorrow, just that it will be recorded in advance. It will be recorded in advance. Just that I will be here, but I will not be chatting live with you. That's it. So good night, all of you. Bye-bye.